Oh man, Simon live from Portland. Love it.
Live from Portland.
Love it,
Back.
man.
Yeah, when
Back.
we first started talking, I was live in Portland. Now
You
I'm back
were
live in Portland.
live in Portland from Alabama to Portland and back.
That's
It's
right. I just got a text on my phone. Actually, it was really funny because it was the church congregation I
mm,
attend there. And they were just asking everybody to please attend a service project this Saturday that I won't be there for, but it's
yeah.
to help clear the debris of a pine tree that's going to get cut down. But they gave the address and it's Plantation Place. That's
Oh.
the street. Like Alabama, time to change the name of that street.
I'm not sure what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Gonna show up. Everybody's singing spirituals.
And it is Alabama. I mean, I'm not they're late to like everything. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like most religion is late to everything too.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like
Yes.
you put the religion and you get a religious, state and everything like that. And you're just going to be about 50 years behind the times.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I lived in Georgia for like a couple years and very backwards. Like
yeah.
not in Atlanta, like deep South Georgia, like
Yeah.
Savannah, Richmond Hill, very backwards.
The bigger the city or town, the more cosmopolitan it's going to tend to be, where
Yeah.
they'll, look at and accept a wider variety of views. I
Yeah.
was in, so here in Portland, we have a street called Hawthorne Street. It's a very nice street. It's got lots of restaurants and theaters and all kinds of stuff. Very popular. I go and I meet a friend there for brunch yesterday, and I'm just sitting there people watching because we're on a table on the sidewalk. And I was telling my daughter about this. I thought it was so funny. I was like, I forgot how weird Portland is,
Yes.
because it's so great in a great way, because it's just like I'm watching everybody walk by, and it's like a quote unquote normal person dressed just kind of normal or whatever is absolutely the
Yeah. It's the
rarity.
outlier.
They're the
Yeah.
outliers now. I'm sitting there in just a t-shirt and some athletic shorts or whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I'm the weirdo here, you know.
Yeah.
But
You're the
it's
weirdo.
fantastic, man. It's fantastic. I just love it. And to
Yeah.
see that so many different kinds of people just walking by, through each other, around each other.
Yeah.
You just see it just like, why are people scared of
Mm.
difference? That's the big question that
Yeah.
I have. It's just like, all of these people are so different and they all look like they're just wonderful. It's like I want to
Yeah.
sit down and interview every single one of them. And
Right.
I just want to ask them like the simple question, what's up with you, man? What's up with you?
What happened? What's going on with you? Yeah.
Yeah. And in a really good way.
Yeah.
But yeah, you move somewhere that's a bit more, we'll just say conservative or
Sure.
whatever, and a bit more behind the times, as far as like social issues go.
Yeah.
And they're the weirdos. It's just like, there's a reason I left Portland and we ended up staying here for 20 years.
You're on an adventure, man. I feel like you're on a big adventure. Like, I tell my wife that. I said, Simon, and they're like on an adventure. That's what we're doing too, man. We're on
Yeah.
adventures, man. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the name of your town again?
Blaine.
Blaine. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody was asking me where you are. I was telling somebody about our podcast.
Yeah.
They were asking if we do it live or if we're and I was like, no, he lives on the Canadian border. So
Yeah.
not exactly. Can't
Very
get
conservative
together.
place too. Us,
Yeah.
actually a very conservative place in a state that's really liberal, you would say, but
Yeah.
very conservative here up this part. Yeah.
Well, that's the interesting thing about Oregon and Washington that are considered liberal places. But once you leave the big
Yeah.
cities, very conservative.
Very.
That's
Yeah.
why there's a movement to try and join Idaho. Like Eastern Oregon wants to join Idaho.
Wow.
And Idaho's like, no.
How about that's a no?
Yeah. I mean,
That's a no.
let's face it. I mean, nothing against Eastern Oregon. There's some beautiful places and beautiful people, but you guys are financially worthless. You know,
Worthless.
yeah.
Financially speaking.
I mean, you're just be a burden on Idaho.
A
You know what
burden
I
on
mean?
Idaho.
It's like,
The Simon, you know what? This is skeptical Simon. I knew you were coming back. I knew you were coming back. And the movie with Aniara, I bet you're skeptical about it on some level, man. I'm telling you.
I've got lots to say.
I'm
Let's
telling
get into
you,
that.
there's a lot to say about this movie.
Yeah.
A lot, right? Speaking of weirdos. Right?
Yeah. Right. Okay. So this feeds, you know, let's just say it out loud. This is a very Swedish film.
Very Swedish.
It started off not, it was very, what's the word? Like under, just everybody was kind of chill. Everything's kind of chill.
Yeah. It's chill.
And it was just like, oh, here comes the orgy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, this is a Swedish film.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay.
This is like kind of my vibe, okay?
Yeah.
You haven't noticed this yet?
The thing that I kept giggling about was the soundtrack.
Yes.
Because sometimes it was difficult to take a scene seriously because of this 90s club music that kept coming on. That was just like, and not even good 90s club music, but like the most harmless, neutral sounding 90s club music that you could possibly put on, like music that was meant to be put on a 90s elevator going up to the club.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's so Swedish. I mean,
so Swedish.
I don't want to sound like I think I'm an expert on Sweden or anything. But
no.
It actually reminded me. So in my music production, I actually have a bunch of plugins for, you know, affecting different things from a Swedish company. They're called Kågerman, I think. Mm-hmm. So anyway, you know, every company who puts out these music gizmos and plugins and stuff like that, they always have sound samples of what they do and everything. And it's that. Yeah. It's that soundtrack to the and it always cracks me up. I'm just like, Sweden. Yes. You guys are like Georgia. You're about 30 years behind.
It's true, man. It's true.
Because everything in that movie is really beautiful and it's amazing. I looked at the statistics and I'm blanking on the actual budget for this movie, but it is not. I mean, when you talk about like a Hollywood budget versus this budget, I mean, no budget.
None.
Is what.
But to make it look the way it looks with no budget. Pretty good.
Really good. I couldn't help but think that they were filming in actual shopping centers and things like that, you know, but I liked that actually, because it kept the vibe of that. This is just one big cruise ship. Right.
Exactly. Right. It's entertainment. You know?
This is supposed to be a pleasure cruise until you reach the cold hell that is Mars.
Exactly.
Speaking of, I think that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. It's at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
There's a very existentialist feel to the main character where she says, basically, this is just as good as anything else.
Yeah.
And that is a theme to the beginning, right? Where it's just like, and even when people, like the first scene of panic when somebody hears the news that they can't, and she gets down in their face, that poor Spanish guy.
That's right.
And she's like, Mars is hell. Basically, it's a cold, dark hell.
Yeah.
You might as well live here.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's this, it's kind of a nice existentialist feel where it's just like, this life is just as good as any. You can burn on Earth, burn on, you know, in the hellscape that is now Earth.
Yeah.
You can go to the the cold hellscape that is now Mars, or you can live on a pleasure cruise.
Yeah. I'll take the pleasure cruise. Right. And because you think like, I think we have this fascination, especially with Mars right now, especially like space companies and stuff. But the reality, I was talking to Michelle about this. The reality of it is living there is not going to be exciting. I mean,
No,
it's not going to be
no,
fun.
no.
You know, at least the original people,
Maybe,
it's not going to be great.
yeah. Maybe if you're big into spelunking,
Yeah, maybe.
you can go
Yeah.
find some great caves, whatever. It
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
really exciting if you're a scientist and you
Right.
find some ancient remains of what used to be a stream bed or
Right.
something, and you're just like, wow, neat. And then the rest of us are like, great, but it's not a real stream bed anymore. So
No.
useless to us.
Yeah. We're the fun people at, by the way.
Yeah.
It's always just the scientists. You don't like think of these
Yeah.
like scientists as being like these amazingly fun people. You're like, oh, a lot of research is going to happen. Exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm like,
So, and so that was kind of interesting. So the astronomer in the
mm,
show, and she's kind of the voice of despair from the beginning.
she is. Yes.
She's
Yeah.
separated. And in fact, that's the first time we kind of hear that existential philosophy, is that she talks about having been separated from her significant other,
Right.
husband, whatever. And after 32 years or something like that. And they say, oh, wow, that's a long time. And what happened? It's like, I don't know. You can't know when you're in it what happened.
Right.
So she was like, ask me in another 30 years or something like that. Maybe I'll know what happened. But the main character, she's just kind of like, well, this life is as good as another. Being
Yeah.
single is as good as being together or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was just a really great way to kind of set up the film. It was a good first kind of analog for what's about to happen. We're
That's
about to get
exactly right.
separated from all the rest of humanity. We're not going to ever know for sure what exactly happened. We know there was some space junk. We know this,
Yeah.
we know that, but the stoic captain, I loved watching him unravel
Me
throughout the
too.
film.
It was like this burn, like the
Yeah.
realization that, hey, like we're trying to keep this together, but we know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not going to happen.
And I love the false hope that they get, they think the
Yeah.
spear is going to be the fuel that's been sent
Yeah.
out to them or whatever. And, there once again, the astronomer comes in, grabbing the guy's crucifix, I believe, that was that was around his neck. There's the symbol of hope, and saying, this is all, and she's drunk, but she's saying, this is all coincidence. There is no hope.
Yeah, so the voice of despair, man.
Yeah.
I tell you, I love it.
Isn't that what the title means?
I didn't look it up
Despairing?
actually.
I think that I saw that, but
That would make sense.
yeah.
It was a really like, I remember watching it and I was like, has anybody else watched this? Like, because it like flew hard under the radar, hard.
Yeah.
Like, who knows about this movie? I just stumbled upon it and I was like, space, Mars, I'm in,
Yeah.
And then I didn't think it was what it was. I was like, oh, this is really like the destruction of people, the human
Yeah.
behavior over, and they detail it over many, this long time period, which I thought was
Yeah.
also interesting too.
So spoilers here,
Yeah.
right? You gotta warn everybody, spoilers.
Spoilers.
But the last time we see anybody alive, I think, is 24 years into this Lost in Space voyage. And it was just, it was neat to see how they did it, like, with these episodic things. I was surprised how they skipped so far ahead in time. Sometimes I was like, oh, wow, you just, okay. It's like year 1, year 2, year 3, year 10.
Yeah. Like, wait a minute.
Oh, we missed some stuff.
Yeah. It's just breakdown of society when like when you're operating that room and nobody's using that room initially, but then everybody wants to use it at a certain point. And then just the destruction of that was like another despair point. It was like, oh, we overloaded it basically,
I thought it was funny. It was kind of like the hologram deck on Star Trek,
Yeah. Yeah.
having an existential crisis and saying, I
Yeah.
can't take this anymore. I can't take any more of you guys playing Sherlock Holmes on here. So I'm out and
I'm
just
done.
committing
Yeah.
suicide.
The technology was like, this is too much. This is
Yeah.
like,
And I thought that was really, I mean, once again, you can easily tie that into religion, which is very interesting because I feel like I've been having these conversations. We touched on some of these last time where we were talking about things like I believe we were talking about things like, you know, does your faith, does God empower you or depower you?
right. Yeah.
And the thing about putting all your faith in a sacrificial being like a Jesus or something like
Mhm.
that. And it's not to say I'm not trying to disparage the idea, because I think it's a beautiful idea, and I think you know, all of us can learn a lot from that story, and from having faith in that idea of a messianic figure that takes upon themselves the pain and sins of the world
Yeah.
and things like that. However, at some point, doesn't your God want you to kind of grow up
Yeah.
and become your own person and stop coming in? To me, what they were doing was almost like prayer. You know,
Yeah.
they're coming in, they kind of get lost in this kind of faith meditation of what they wish was, which is kind of what prayer is, right? I
Yeah.
wish for this. I wish life was like this. So please, God, help life be like this.
Right. Right.
Which is a bit contrary to the way Jesus kind of taught prayer,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know. But you know, it is what it is. Things
Yeah.
evolve.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was a very interesting thing to think about, a God that is just like, you know what, you guys just aren't figuring it out with me.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm gonna kind of check out.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And couldn't you kind of make an argument for that for the last 2,000 years? Because Christianity hasn't had a really great track record of being uh, 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 the voice of a divine and benevolent creator.
Right.
So you know, we could make an argument that God just kind of said, you know what, you guys just aren't getting it, so I'm out of here.
Yeah. I think this plays out in some other shows where, like, I can't remember which show it was, where God disappears. Um, I don't know if it's Preacher. I don't think it's Preacher. I can't remember, honestly. But it's something like that, where it's like, oh, God's just disappeared. Nobody could find him.
It's a great Tom Waits song called "God's Away on Business."
He might be away on business right now, especially. It's like, whoa, 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 this isn't what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, what? Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I had a conversation with my daughter, Sunny, who's 20 years old, and hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing this. I don't think she would. She's
Okay.
very openly atheist.
Okay.
And here I am, her father, struggling to keep spirituality in my life, even though. So here's how the story goes. When she's about 8 years old, and she's telling me this story, and the context of this is that she was kind of arguing to me that I had told them what they should believe by taking them to church.
Okay.
Which is kind of like I'm telling them what to believe by sending them to school. It's like, not really, you know,
Yeah.
but I can see where you're coming from.
Okay.
Because I never told them what they needed to believe. I never told them this is what you should believe and this is what you shouldn't believe. But I did try to have tried to teach them their entire lives how to think critically. And so in this example that she brought up, she said when she was 8 years old, we left church and we're driving home, and somebody had got up and talked about something silly, the equivalent of they prayed to God and God helped them find their car keys. The equivalent of something like that.
Very silly. Yeah.
And I turned to the kids and I asked them, what do you guys think about that? And they're just like, I don't know. I guess that's fine. And I said, well, what about the idea that God helped them find their car keys, but down the street did nothing about a girl being raped?
Yeah.
And Sonny said, she just kept thinking about that.
Yeah,
And
really.
thinking about that. And came to the conclusion there's no God.
Wow.
Which wasn't what I meant. Which
No,
wasn't
you're
where I
like,
was
wait a
trying
minute,
to
wait a minute.
push with that.
Yeah.
What I was trying to push is like, how do we perceive God's role in our lives and
That's the big question.
in other people's lives?
Yeah.
And this movie kind of asks that question. It's like, well, throughout all of history of this world, we've had people who have, through no fault of their own, have been destroyed, killed, suffered, been lost, all these kinds of things. And the question is, where was God?
Yeah.
Where, if you get right down to it, to the most essential Christian belief that God is the Father, literal Father of, and we are all his children, where's Dad?
Yeah.
Where's Dad?
Yeah. I can sense there's a turn in you. I feel it, man. Like you said, I'm struggling to keep spirituality. And I know we're talking about this, but I'd like to hear more about that,
My struggle is that I'm a very logical person. So once again, just like that example I gave to my kids, I am going to take every idea to its logical conclusion.
Sure.
And if that conclusion is BS, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's religion, science, politics,
sure,
whatever. I don't care what it is. I'm going to take that idea to its logical conclusion. And a lot of people will argue, but that's not faith. My argument back to them is faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So I got to put in the work to figure out what my faith actually is.
Yeah.
And when you put in that kind of work and you see the world with clear eyes, unbiased by your preconceived notions of Jesus is my savior, or whatever other religion you're a part of, then things get real tricky. Just putting it lightly.
I understand what you're doing and what you're going through. I really do. I've gone through iterations of this several times in my life, like early 20s. I had a lot of questions, worked through it, came out with the same conclusion. I would say right now I'm in a season where I'm just like, I need to like study this more.
Yeah.
So I'm reading, like I have all the books from Lee Strobel. I love him as an author. I think he's great.
Yeah.
Case for Christ and all that. And it's just very compelling. And all of the scientists that he interviews in there and the historical aspects of Jesus and the whole thing, it's very compelling. It always pulls me back in, but I'm like you, I'm very logical. But I don't think I think you should question it. I'm not of the like, don't question anything. Don't have any questions about God. And like, I think actually God wants us to have questions.
I mean,
and explore that.
Here's, that's my take on it as well. If I come to the conclusion that there is no God during my lifetime here, let's just say, for example, I do that. Now I die and I go to meet God.
Yeah.
And he's like, surprise.
It's a birthday party.
I would think that he would be very pleased with how much work I put into, deciding for myself, figuring out for myself, not taking somebody else's word for it, not believing blindly, not doing all these things, but I put in so much freaking work.
Yeah.
Into coming to whatever conclusion I came to.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think God would be way happier with that than if I had just said, yeah, sure, I'll go with JC.
Yeah.
No, I'll get a fish tattoo and sing Jesus, I'm so in love with you.
Yeah.
And never question it. I mean, I just, that's why, like, I'm so proud of my daughter, Sunny.
Yeah.
They are living their, let's just call it their truth.
Right.
And hopefully that truth evolves over time. And I'm not saying that in a way that I'm saying I hope they come back to church or anything like that.
Right.
But hopefully they're like what you just described.
Yeah.
And what I just said, it's like, don't be so absolute about anything,
Yeah.
because hopefully the experiences you have in your life will just continue to change you, and you will
Yeah.
evolve. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Evolution.
I mean, she's 20. I mean, wait,
Yeah. 20.
things change a lot from
Yeah.
20 to 40, like
Yes.
a megaton.
Exactly.
Like it's like crazy how much. So, I mean, you don't know.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's like, I just like am willing to go out on many ledges to explore my faith, which honestly, my intake, I've talked about this openly on my podcast many times. I really don't care. My intake of psilocybin mushrooms was another marker for me to confirm divinity. It was a huge crossing point. I was like, this makes sense to me.
I just spoke to somebody else who had a very similar experience.
It just confirmed it. And even in, there was so much research in this area in the 60s, 1560s. Mm-hmm. And one of the greatest research studies was done with divinity students. It's a mind-blowing research study. And for all the divinity students, they said it was their greatest spiritual experience going through that. It confirmed the divinity. I've always had a very similar thing with that. But I think that's me stepping out on a ledge, trying to, and different pathways, whether it's reading, doing this, to say, okay, how does this mesh with my logic related to this?
Yeah.
I'm always willing to go on the ledge for that stuff.
That's the important thing. So I found myself repeating this recently. So I figured out a way to try and explain myself to people because, we have these conversations with people. People want to know what you're all about,
Yeah.
And I've been struggling to tell people what I'm all about because I feel like I'm trying to be about everything. But how do you explain that? So I figured this out. I think it's a good analogy where I started telling people, I step into every doorway, but I don't go in the room. I step in the doorway and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to listen sincerely. And I want to learn from every room I go into or every doorway I go into. And I'm going to listen, and I'm going to think about those ideas profoundly. And then I'm going to kind of lean into the room a little bit, and I'm going to whisper, what if? That's the mischief in me.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been recording a rap artist here named Ronnie Taylor. I'm actually in his house right now.
Yeah.
So he has made a life for himself, a very good life with patterns that are very consistent and things like that. And I have stepped into his life, and I have been a wrecking ball of chaos.
Yeah.
And he's been talking to me about it. He's like, it's been so good to have you here. He said, I had no idea, and these are his words, how rigid I'd become. And he doesn't want to be rigid.
Yeah.
He wants to experience life. He wants to, do things and experience things, all this stuff that we all want.
Yeah.
And then the rigidity of what we believe is our thing, our place, or whatever, gets in the way of us experiencing all these other things.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were raised like I was. Say no to drugs.
Say no to drugs.
Say no to drugs. All drugs, doesn't matter. Tylenol, ibuprofen. No. But had you not said, you know what, I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
Then you would have locked yourself out from having a profound spiritual experience.
Exactly. I just like somebody tells me something, I'm like, okay, well, I want to go deeper into this. I don't want to tell them they're wrong or right. I just want to experience it myself. Like, okay, what is the information that's there? Tell me. And then what is my own observation or experience? Tell me. And then I make a decision from there. I think that's we're at this weird crisis point, I think, in spirituality. And especially in America,
Mhm.
where I'm sure you are very aware of all this stuff, where it's like it's shifting into something, especially Christianity, it's shifting into a very extremist thing on
Yeah.
at least the allowed people are shifting it into this Christian nationalism thing. I'm just like,
And we wonder why church attendance is down.
right. And it's just diving,
Yeah.
right? It's just, and it's not sitting well with me. It's just not sitting well with me.
Well, it's a response to progressive social I just I fail to see how seeing somebody equal to me is progressive. So I'm just going to say this is a response to society progressing, because I don't think seeing somebody as equal to me and should enjoy the same benefits as me is a very progressive idea. That's not
right. It's not a progressive idea.
No, that's just
what is that?
humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so, but society is progressing.
Yes.
And we are seeing the fruits of so much labor that has been going on, for forever, really, people trying to say, I'm here. The way I want to love somebody isn't evil.
Yeah.
It's just the way I want to love them. And it's who I want to love. Who I want to love isn't evil.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And I'll tell you another thing. It's Old Testament.
Yeah.
I tell you, man, Christianity and their Old Testament.
I know.
It's like, what did Jesus tell you?
I know.
I came to complete that.
Exactly. No more sacrifices with all these things, I'm completing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Christianity's totally chill with saying we don't have to sacrifice animals anymore, but they still want to stone gays.
Right. It's just crazy to me. It's just crazy to me.
And so I just don't understand. It's like you're just nitpicking ways that you can keep people down.
Yeah.
And have power over them and pretending. So there was this when gay marriage first passed.
Yeah.
So there are some folks who went out and did a bunch of interviews with people who were against it. Asked them why they're against it. Of course, you hear the most ridiculous things.
Yeah.
But they're all just so scared of all this other stuff. They go back a year later, interview the same people, ask them, how has your life changed since gay marriage passed?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess it really hasn't. Across the board. Oh, I guess it really hasn't.
Yeah.
Exactly. Allowing somebody else just to live the way they want to live has no impact on you whatsoever.
None.
Allowing somebody else to love the person they want to love.
Yeah.
Unless you're in love with them too.
Yeah.
Has no impact on
exactly.
you whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, but these are the things, man. These are the things where I'm just like, well, if that's Christianity, then I'm out.
Right. I've had these discussions with my wife about this, and it's important to put it out there, I think, in a public aspect and speak intelligently about it. And I told her, I said, well, are we really Christians? Like, because the version that is being presented is not what is the actuality of what we're into. Like, and certainly what is the loud mouth people on the fringes are presenting, that's definitely not Christianity. Like, I think we believe in God and Jesus, but does that mean we believe in what they're saying it is? Like, I was just like, there's got to be a different thing. There's a different, I said, honestly, I think Jesus would be very disappointed in what's happening. I really do. I really do, man. I just think he'd be like so disappointed. Like, no.
So I consider myself a Christian. And it's not because I follow exclusively the teachings of Jesus.
Yeah.
But here's where So I've mentioned to you that I'm writing this book.
Yeah,
Jesus,
that's right.
a manifestation of the feminine.
Yeah.
That's what the title is. The whole point of this book is to do what I've been talking about, take things to their logical conclusion.
Yeah.
And it's not to disprove or prove anything.
Right.
That's not the point of the book at all. I am
Yeah.
not trying to build or take away anybody's faith. What I'm trying to say is I think we've been doing it wrong. So what are we if we say we're a Christian? What a Christian is literally a follower of Christ. What did Christ do during his ministry? He pointed out all the hypocrisies within his own faith.
Correct.
He did not go around telling people outside of his faith what they were doing wrong and their hypocrisies. Within his own faith and culture, that's what he concentrated on. So as a Christian myself, writing this book, the point of it is to point out these are the hypocrisies.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to contend with these, then you're not Christian. That's my personal opinion. If you're not willing to contend with the hypocrisies and work to fight against these hypocrisies that are within our own faith culture, then you're not actually a Christian because you don't actually follow Christ. You can believe in him all day.
Yeah.
You can pray to him all night. But until you start rooting out the hypocrisy within your own faith system, you're not a Christian.
Yeah. I like this take. I like this hot take, Simon. It's going like, think about like Jesus, like believe in one of the aspects. He talks to a very super wealthy guy. And he's like, how can I get all this eternity? I want to have eternity, like everything. And he was like, I want you to sell everything you have.
Yep.
And the guy goes, well, I can't do that. It's like, again, Jesus just says, follow me, sell everything you have. Yep. Whole thing. And he just points it out over and over again. And people say, why do you sit with those people? Excuse me? It's like, I came for them.
Yes, exactly.
Right? I came for them.
You all think you're righteous already. You don't need me.
Who do you think he's basically like, who do you think you are?
Exactly. That first example you gave, the rich young man, who I think the scripture literally says walks away sad after Jesus tells him that. What a perfect example of that hypocrisy, where that young man had accumulated so many worldly things, but Jesus keeps saying over and over, my kingdom is not of this world.
Yeah.
So that guy, he doesn't get it.
He doesn't get it. Right? People jumping over pews to say, oh, being gay is wrong. We're like, really? And, actually, that was one of the first things that kind of started breaking me a little. I was like, I don't believe this. I remember telling my wife, I was like, I don't believe this at all.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, what does that mean that I don't believe that? Like, what does that mean? And we both agreed that. And I don't think it like changed our faith, but it just was like, I don't believe that. I don't know. It was weird, like thinking that,
I think that's beautiful when the representatives of your faith can say something and you can say, I don't believe that, but it doesn't affect your faith.
It didn't. Yeah, it never has. I just don't believe it.
Thing, you know? Because we're in a cancel culture.
Yeah.
Where if somebody says something, we cancel everything they're about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for you to be able to hold on to that and say, I believe in Jesus, but not that one.
Yeah, no, it just always has felt made up. I was like, oh, that feels made up. I was like, that's just like, what is that? Like, because someone has a different sexual orientation, I was like, what? That has nothing to do with like the ground, the real reality of this situation,
One of the singular things that Christianity has to come to grips with is that most of it's made up.
Yeah, I agree, man.
The acceptance of that. In my little book that I mentioned, I do a quick comparison of Buddha and Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first writings to come out about the teachings of, or documenting the teachings of Buddha were 400 years after his death. The reason one of the reasons I was making this comparison is that neither Buddha nor Jesus were writers.
Right.
They were oral teachers, oral teachers, sorry. And they, so somebody else had to, we only know about them because somebody else wrote about them. That's the whole point.
Right.
They've both taught very similar precepts once you break them down.
Yeah.
And the other side of this coin is that, we'll take Jesus, for example. The people who wrote about him first, this is like 50 years later. Paul is the first guy he's writing,
Right.
and that's the earliest writings we have. He's 50 years later, never met Jesus.
Right.
How accurate
Yeah.
can we expect writings that came 50, 100, 200 years after Jesus, written by people who never met the man?
Yeah.
How accurate could they possibly be?
Mm.
And that's not to say Jesus didn't exist. He didn't. It's not to say he didn't teach this. It's not to say he didn't say that. It's to say we have to just come to the grips with that. Some of it's made up. It's embellished. People take artistic license.
Sure.
And the same thing with Buddha.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that 400 years after the fact, somebody was around who had walked with Buddha and wrote down everything he said?
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Yeah. I mean, think about like the concept of karma. Most humans have made that up. They have like mangled it and like beyond recognition. It's actually ridiculous what it has become. And I always do this to people when people say, "Oh, it's karma." I'm like, what does that actually mean? Like, I know what it means, but I like want them to, like anything. If you ask someone to explain themselves, that's when it breaks. The reality breaks.
I don't know.
Oh, they did something bad, so something comes. I'm like, that's actually not what it is. It's nothing. It's no. And actually,
that's the American.
That's American karma.
Of karma.
Like that's, you're talking about consequences. Somebody does something. Yeah,
there's nothing profound about action and consequence.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, come on. Yeah, but people do that. They make up something to fit their reality.
Yeah,
they want it to fit the reality that they're living in. You know,
people want justice. They want there to be appropriate. They want the punishment to fit the crime.
Right.
And they want the universe to take care of that for them.
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole other thing, Simon. I mean, you're getting into like, and that's why I always keep lots of time for Simon now. I told him, I was like, dude, I was like, I am not scheduling anything behind this for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's always the deepest stuff here. I can't, more people, and this is honestly with my podcast, I meet a lot of people who are like, the universe told me this whole thing. And I'm like, explain yourself.
Yeah.
And they always struggle when they tell me. They struggle with it.
Because they're making it up.
I know. That's the thing. The universe manifests. I'm like, literally, I tell it, what does that mean? Like, is the universe alive in a way that's different than what I want to know? Like,
yeah.
What does that mean? The universe, is that God to you? Yeah. Like, what is it like
what are we talking about here?
It just breaks down as soon as, it just breaks down immediately. It just does. Because nobody ever does that to people. They never tell people to explain themselves.
Man, and that's why I like talking to you. I said something earlier and you said, basically, explain yourself.
Yeah. I'm like, you're struggling. What does that mean? Like, that's one of the greatest questions. What does that mean?
And what does the Apostle Paul say? He says, have an answer for people who question you. And
exactly.
He tells us to do that.
Yes.
You can only do that through profound self-examination.
And
if we're not willing to do that, because self-examination means coming head to head with the mote in our own eye. And if we're not willing to do that, then we are not going to have an answer.
Yeah.
If we just want to have this kind of, I mean, what you were just saying about the universe manifesting itself to it, it's the same idea as Jesus take the wheel.
I know.
And it's the same idea as I don't have any control in my life.
Yeah.
But karma says my actions will have consequence.
Yeah.
But if you're giving up control your whole life, I just don't know what to say.
Aren't
to
you
these
just
people.
worshiping the universe? Like I'm telling you, Simon, this gets told to me so much doing this. The universe told me, and you can listen to any of the podcasts when I do it. I say, what is the universe? What, like, are we talking about like quasars, black holes told you? Like, seriously, explain it. Like, no, time dilation. Like, there's a lot happening here. I
Yes.
mean, quantum, we can talk about string theory. That's part of the universe. It's like,
There's
is this
so
a
much
sentience? Is there sentience is what you're telling me? And it just like, it destroys the argument immediately.
It does.
Oh, the universe gave me this job. I'm calling bullshit on that, man. I'm telling you, man.
So here's something. The first time I ever told this to my wife, she did not like it.
Okay.
I said, you always do what you want to do. She's like, no, I don't. I have to do things every day I don't want to do. I said, no, that's wrong. You looked at your choices, you weighed the consequences, and you chose the thing you wanted to do.
Yeah.
You might have desired, you might have had a daydream about, oh, I wish I could do this.
Yeah.
In actuality, you could have, but you chose the thing you wanted to do. Now, every day when I tell myself that, I am taking personal accountability for every single word I say, every single step I take, everything I do, and the consequences that come from those things are all mine, and I own them. It's not the universe. It ain't karma. It has none of that has any control over me whatsoever. It's not Jesus, take the wheel. It's actually Jesus, I'll take the wheel. I will be in control of my own life. Thank you. And everything I do at the end of this life, if I end up at the judgment bar and I'm on the opposite side of God and they're saying, you know, you did this, this, and this, and I will have to say without any question or reservation, yes. And that is exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So judge me accordingly.
Right. Yeah. And she didn't like that.
She didn't like it at first.
But
then she thought it through.
Right.
She's like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think any reasonable person would look at that and say, well, yeah, we all need to take personal accountability for everything. And that's my version of doing it. Whether you want to say, you know, well, I have a lot of faith that God is going to intervene for me and all these kind of things, that's fine. That's the world you're living in. It's not the world I'm living in.
Yeah.
Because I know how much suffering is going on around the world. And I can't sit here and say I worship a benevolent, loving Father who just sits by and watches that go on.
Yeah.
But they're helping me get a job that makes me money.
No. No. I think you said something interesting last time.
By the way.
Right. I think you said something last time is like, I think you said, please correct me because I say weird stuff all the time. I'm like any human. I embellish stories here or there, you know, like I think you had said, like, I think that, you know, that God basically leaves us to our own devices. Essentially something
that's my
to that
personal
effect.
Philosophy.
Right. That was what you had. I just want to make sure I'm saying correctly what you said.
That is what I was saying.
Okay.
You know, a lot of the founding fathers were actually deists who kind of believed in this similar thing where God put everything in motion and then leaves us to our own devices. So I'm very much in line with that kind of idea.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, how is anybody responsible for anything they do?
Right.
If God is picking and choosing when and where he's going to intervene, how is there any personal accountability for anything?
Right. Yeah.
These things just, for me, they're paradoxical, and I'm fine. We can live in a paradox.
Sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But if we're going to live in that paradox, then we have to come to terms that it is a paradox And do you want to, and so do you think God is a logical God who, sets the universe in motion in a logical way? Or do you think God is a paradox? I don't know. Maybe that's not an either or question, but for
Yeah.
me, it's like, these are the things you have to come to terms with. And I just don't think most people who are saying they believe in Jesus are coming to terms with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think of the enormity of that job.
Yeah.
If you were responsible for everything, everywhere, every time, and every dimension that occurred that was bad, for saving that, for intervening in that, it's unfathomable to me.
Yeah.
It literally is. It would be a miracle every hour of every day, of every second on the planet. It would be something miraculous happening all the time, literally.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think that was ever what it was meant to be.
No,
I
don't think so either. I
Yeah.
don't think so either. And, to your point, the God of the seen and unseen universe, and that's from the Nicene Creed,
Yeah.
So you're saying that he is, this is the God literally of everything.
Yeah.
And he cares about if a woman has more than one piercing.
Yeah.
Like Paul's teaching us, he cares about the length of your hair. He cares about if you have a tattoo or whatever. I mean, come on. He cares if you enjoy a beer. He cares if you, it's just like, so
Jesus filled up the wine, man. He filled that wine
exactly.
up, man. He was up at that party.
And everybody's
Jesus was
like,
at
this
parties,
is the best
man.
wine.
Yeah. They were like,
They
we're
wouldn't
running
have said
low.
that if it wasn't good wine.
Right. Jesus, we're running low. Seriously. He was like,
Yeah.
boop, 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 boop. It came right back up. I was like, I would party with JC, man. He
That's right.
seems like he's at the great parties, man.
That's right. Well, he called everybody out for criticizing him for coming and going to parties and
Right.
dancing and things like
Yes.
that. He's like, you criticize John the Baptist when he is the quintessential prophet wearing camel hair and eating locusts. But I come to you and I'm getting down at your parties and your
Yeah.
celebrations, and I'm dancing and I'm celebrating with you. And now you don't want me either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something I was going to say about that was, oh shoot, no, I lost it.
Jesus was almost like the ultimate outcast and rebel in many ways.
Yeah.
We've gotten away from that though. It's just weird to me. But I think God is everything everywhere, but like must do everything, must prevent everything. I've always struggled with that. I was like, these are man-made things, man. A lot of this is just man-made things, man.
That's actually what I was going to get at, is that so much all this stuff is just made up.
It's just people-made stuff, man.
It up.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you can convince me that the universal being who created everything for another, trillion light years away from here and here, that he cares about what you're telling me to care about.
It seems trivial. You know what I mean? It's like, why? I mean,
so I had this conversation with somebody to try and illustrate this point. We're talking about if Jesus was perfect. And I say, sure. Or more to the point, if he was sinless. And I said, sure. Because to be sinless is to not act against the will of God. That, however, does not mean you don't make a mistake.
Right.
That, however, does not mean you are not in error on a plethora of things. So to say Jesus was perfect or sinless is not to say that he did not have the human experience of being wrong.
Right.
I guarantee you in Jesus's life, he had to go up to somebody and apologize. I was wrong.
Yeah.
And if he didn't, then it's not a Jesus I'm interested in. Because he didn't have that's not a real experience.
No.
If you're going to tell me that God made themselves manifest in the flesh to have a human experience and they were never wrong about anything, calling bullshit on that.
I don't think that was the case at all.
I can't
actually.
relate to them, and they can't relate to me.
Jesus got angry. I mean, he had emotions. He had I mean, if you follow it at all, you see the gamut of emotions
Yeah.
that Jesus had throughout his life. I mean,
I just told this story to somebody, but I think it's really perfect for this. So Mr. Rogers got a letter from a parent who's just like, how are you so perfect? And you never
yeah,
get angry or yell at your kids and blah, blah, blah. And Mr. Rogers' response was so profound. He said, maybe that's not a perfect parent. Maybe I'm not a perfect parent.
yeah,
Maybe a perfect parent is somebody who can demonstrate the full range of emotions to their children
yeah.
and then not hurt anybody.
Mm,
Isn't that what
yeah,
Jesus was teaching us the whole time?
yeah, yeah. It's a
Get angry,
deconstruction. I think that
love,
I
weep.
sent you that one podcast. I think it was about like deconstructing faith
Yes, that was a good
with
one.
April
Yeah,
A. Joy. And
yeah,
she's going through a lot of what we're going through. And a
yeah,
lot of people are deconstructing it. It's like, what's all
yeah.
this bullshit that people have been doing? It's like a lot of smoke and mirrors,
It
you know?
is. It's a lot of I always try to just narrow it down to its simplest form and say what's going on. We've talked about that. Can we
Yeah.
simplify it and just kind of,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on, but can we trace it to a particular root or roots? And I think one of the most insidious roots is that prosperity gospel.
Oh, it's insidious. Oh,
If you do this, you get this. Wrong, untrue,
untrue.
completely wrong. I mean, nothing could be further from the truth.
And easy to break down too. So easy
Oh
to
my
break
gosh.
down, man.
I mean, one of the most easy things to disprove is prosperity gospel,
So
but it
easy.
is everywhere. It's in every single Christian church, no matter how progressive they think
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
still basing their teachings on some kind of reward system.
Yeah.
Do this, get this.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the altruism that Jesus taught, actually.
Yeah.
Altruism literally means you give and it hurts you.
That's
You
right.
don't get anything back for it.
Yeah.
Jesus sure didn't.
Yeah.
He did everything he did and got nailed to a cross.
Right.
That's altruism. I'm not, in fact, and he kept prophesying of his death. He knew
He knew.
the way things are going.
He knew it, man.
Like MLK said, I can see the promised land, but I'm not going to get there with you.
I'm not going to get there with you. Yep. Exactly. I mean, I think when I was in college, one of the greatest placards I ever read was driving to campus was faith doesn't make things easy.
No, and it shouldn't.
It doesn't. And it's not oh, life is amazing now. There's a lot of comfort, but man, there's a lot of difficulty too.
There's a scripture, it's in Ecclesiastes that oh gosh, the the correct quote is now totally escaping me, but it's that with wisdom comes much sorrow. That's basically it. That's kind of the King James version. It might be different some others, but that's basically it. And that's the whole thing with faith, with belief, with all this stuff. I mean, yeah, there's certain things that it should alleviate, but Jesus said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. But there's still yokes and burdens.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's crazy, man.
So yeah, I mean, I love all this because I actually think that if people go and watch this movie, Aniasa, am I saying
Aniara.
that right? Aniara. Sorry, everybody. Aniara. There is so much of what we're saying in this movie. It's not spoken out loud necessarily,
yes,
but it's all there. You're watching it. And it's kind of a sped up version of almost every society, right? Every society comes to an end. We're constantly digging up places we didn't even know existed. And it's constantly changing our understanding of history. That's what this movie is kind of about, It's like every civilization is like this, and it has an end.
It definitely has an end.
The United States will someday have an end. I hope it doesn't have an end. Well,
Yeah, it's definitely true. There's too much hubris with us because like our country has barely been around. Like it's like a blink been around.
Yeah.
And the amount of how do I say this? Like arrogance to think that it's like a boxer thinking they'll always be on top. Like I'm never gonna lose. Like I'm the man. Like, you know, like everything crumbles at some point, you know.
Everything does.
I mean, Tom Brady's going to retire at some point. Yeah. Like, it's hard to believe, but it's gonna happen, you know. And all these factions and things, it's just, I just don't like when things move so extreme. I've never been an extreme person, like in anything. I tend to be just very like reasonable about a lot of things. I can see a lot of different pathways, you know. I'm moving the dials. I'm like, okay, I see here, I see there, I see there, you know. There's too much absolutism and there's too much individualism at the same time. It's like we want all this community, but we also don't tell me what to do. It's like it's these weird dichotomies forming.
You can't know my pain.
You don't know.
I'm a human. I'm a human. I don't know. I know we're different. I know we've had a different life, but I'm human.
Right. It's just strange to me. I just like struggling. So I think like these conversations are good because it's good to like flesh out your feelings about these things. Like, yeah, an Aniara, I get it. The longer you're in this no hope situation, you start creating weird stuff. You know, you have orgies, you have weird religions start popping up. You can't see the sun anymore. You're making, I mean, it's like, I get it. I totally understand why that would happen, you know?
So the guy I'm recording right now, he's African-American.
Yeah.
And we were having this conversation the other night where we were talking about extremist groups on the right who have committed violence against the government and are threatening more violence against the government due to the last election.
Yeah.
And what's going on now with the investigations. And I was telling him, I said, they are co-opting the African-American experience. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
They want to pretend that their voice isn't being heard and that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like you're getting disenfranchised. I mean, come on.
Yes, that's what they want to believe. And it's just so funny that this is coming on the tail of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And all these people who were against Black Lives Matter and everything like that, they are co-opting that messaging and saying white people matter.
Yeah, I know. And it's threatening violence. Like, I mean,
but they were totally against violence when Black Lives Matter was going on. It's like, what are they doing? They're so violent, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And now they show up with their tactical gear and their you know, assault rifles and stand in front of an FBI building. And there's like
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it is just to what you're saying, though. I'm just bringing this up to say, you know, it's like that extremism that we're seeing and that lack of just being able to look at yourself in the mirror and saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm just taking somebody else's life experience. And even though I've lived a completely privileged life experience, I'm going to co-opt their pain and make it about me. I'm just like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. And by the way, not to alienate any of your audience, but if you show up at what you are calling a peaceful protest with an assault rifle, you're a coward.
I know. Exactly. Imagine if a bunch of black people showed up in tactical gear in front of the FBI building or the Capitol.
Exactly.
Lights out, Simon.
Exactly.
Lights out.
Yeah.
Game over.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just such a conundrum.
It's a conundrum. But then also to say, this is my right, and then to invoke religion related to it. That's the other piece that gets thrown in also is the placards. It's like, this is my right, my freedom, and God sent me. Or it's just like, this is sickening, man. Like you're making this shit up, man. I was like, you're literally making it up. Yeah. you're making it up. Like,
anything to try and fit a narrative where you can retain power.
yeah,
That's what it's all
that's what
about.
it is, man.
Like, white people don't want to become the minority. And that's really what it's all about.
I think
That's
so
what
too, man.
immigration's about. That's
I agree.
every topic that we talk about, whether it is, how crazy lopsided the judicial system is,
Yeah.
white crime versus black crime, which is not a thing, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just crime.
It's just crime, man.
Or if it's, immigrants coming into our country or anything like that. And they don't hide it either. That's the other
No.
problem, where it's like,
No.
they're not even being insidious about it. They're just wide out in the open, just saying,
No.
well, Muslim families are having too many babies. So white families need to, I mean, that's the idea behind outlawing abortions, is so white people can't have abortions, so they'll have all their babies so they don't become the minority.
Right.
I mean, it's plain and simple.
Because they know what happens when you become the minority. What's the history of being a minority or being different? It's now usually not a good outcome, but that's the thought that they think would happen.
Yeah.
Like,
well, what
crazy.
if multicultural families became the majority?
Right.
I mean, can't we see that might solve all of our problems?
I know.
A family like yours, right?
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Very different looking family. Extremely different.
Ronnie Taylor's family, who I'm recording right here. White wife, multicultural family.
Yep.
My family's not a good example of that.
Simon, get with it.
Like, we're all like, got the complexion of Elmer's glue, you know what I'm saying? But but I mean, that solves our problems, really, when you get down to it. Integration, not segregation.
That's right.
Solves your problems. Now there's no real minority anymore because everybody's mixed.
Yeah. Right. It's always power, Simon. I think you're right. It's holding on to power. And I feel like
it's desperate.
It's desperate. We ever seen anything? I always say this. I'm like, anytime something's on the verge of losing a majority grip and anything, that's when it scratches the hardest, man. That's when it's the ugliest, on the way down. It's never when it's on the top. It's on the way down. That's when it gets nasty.
When you see that you are quite probably never going to win a majority vote again.
Yeah.
Nationally.
That's when you get nasty.
You get real desperate.
That's what's happening, right? I'm telling you, it's what's happening. You start doing stuff that you may have never considered before.
Yeah.
If you were once the party about business and conservative values and taxes, and then now you start becoming something that is unrecognizable.
You weaponize fear.
You weaponize fear.
Because fear will get people out to either demonstrate or to, and both sides do that.
And yes, exactly.
Both sides
extremist liberalism is very similar.
I mean,
your righteous wokeness, it's garbage. It is, man. I think so.
No, it's funny. I watch Bill Maher.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
and I think he's an a-hole.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, everybody.
It's fun to watch, though.
He's fun to watch. And I think I told you this one time, actually. I'm watching him and I'm like, I agree with him more than I disagree. I do fundamentally disagree with him sometimes, but usually I agree with him. So I guess I'm an a-hole too. You know what I mean? It's just like,
there's definitely a lot to agree with that he says. There's some outlandish stuff, but there's a lot to agree with.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he's a comedian. So, you always take that with a grain of salt. You always say, all right, this is a comedian's perspective on American politics and society. He's not trying to be the infallible Pope.
No,
he's trying to tell a joke, get people to laugh.
There's always
and make a point.
Yeah.
And make a point, which I think is great. I'm a big fan of all the guys who do that, whether it's Jon Stewart, Oliver, John Oliver, all these guys who do, and Trevor Noah's become one of my favorites. I mean, because he brings so much joy to it.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate somebody who brings so much joy to delivering me bad news.
Yeah, it's true. My wife loves Trevor Noah. She watches him all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how can you not love Trevor Noah?
That's
You can
great.
disagree with like everything he's saying, but he's so dang cute and
He is
happy,
so cute.
that you're just like, oh,
Oh.
Trevor. And that's what I want to do. Like when I'm writing this book that I mentioned, things like that, I'm just like, I'm trying to write this book with a lot of joy. I'm trying to
Yeah.
present a message with a lot of joy because I would not have wanted to have grown up any other way than that I did.
Yeah.
All the problems with that come with it, and so I'm not trying to destroy my own faith either. I'm not trying
Right.
to, I'm
Yeah.
trying to enhance it. I'm trying to say, this has problems, but I want it to be something.
Yeah. Yeah. And what
I
doesn't
want
have
it to have
problems?
value.
Yeah.
And I think it
Like,
does have value.
yeah, of course it does.
But sometimes the people who are in charge of it are just devaluing it so much.
Big time. like, like big time. I read all those things you read about decreased church membership and all these things. And I look at my wife and I say, this could be fixed. It's not that hard. I'm like, I was like, it's just being driven down by this crazy extremist ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's like if you have to be willing, we need renegade pastors and people in church who are like, listen, we're going to talk about this. I'm not sure all this is true, but like, I believe in the concept of this. And I believe that, listen, I love gay people. You are my people, man. Like, and just leave it at that. And like, the thing I have is when like people cross the line, like, you're my people and I don't like what you're doing. And what you're doing is wrong, but you're my brother. Did you need to say the other part? Like,
exactly.
Did you need to say? Jesus didn't say that.
There's always the caveat, right?
Yeah. You didn't need that.
I love you anyway. It's like, no, don't love me anyway. Love me exactly how I am.
Right.
That's the whole message behind Mr. Rogers.
Right.
The most Christian man that's probably lived in the last, 2000 years since Jesus.
Right.
I love you, or I like you just the way you
are.
Won't you be my neighbor?
You're right. No addendum to that.
No addendum. No, nothing.
Just, this is it.
No HOAs and Mr. Robert.
There's no HOAs. No, there's no, hey, you can't park on the lawn here. You can't.
I mean, that's the whole thing. It's just, I mean, we're finding that the United States started out as an isolationist country for good reason. We couldn't really meddle in world affairs. Then we grew, became the wealthiest and the most powerful military in the world. Now we're meddling in everything. Yeah. But we're not meddling it in a way that says, won't you be my neighbor a lot of the time. Right. I'm not trying to demonize the United States either, because it does a lot of good in the world too. And I'm not trying to not recognize that, but there's a lot of ways that we're going around the world and we are not communicating the message, won't you be my neighbor? Yeah. We're communicating the message. We have allies and those who are not our allies. Right. And we'll do business with our allies, but not the people who are not our allies. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, and even the people who are our allies will only support you so much, because the people that you're at war with, we don't want to be at war with. You know what I mean? But it's just like, but we're just not communicating the message that we are the world's neighbor very well all the time. Right. And we're especially when we are so cutthroat with each other. How could we possibly do good in the world if we can't take care of our own house? Right. And people see that. Other countries see that. They see, they see the turmoil and the dissension. They go, what's going on here? Like, you got to take care of your own. You can't even clean your own house. How are you going to clean our house? Like, exactly. How are you going to help us out? You can't even help yourself out. Like, I see that so clearly all the time, but it's this whole power structure, power struggle that we're going through. And that's why I love movies. Movies display this often. Yes. And whether it's 90 minutes. In 90 minutes, you get the gist of reality. Yeah. And a lot of reality.
That's why movies are amazing. They paint a portrait, they're a microcosm for what's actually happening. You know?
Yes. And that is, what we're just talking about. Like, that is why I just always feel like an outsider in Christianity. It's not that I necessarily want to be an outsider in Christianity.
Yeah.
I'd love to walk into that room and not just stand in the doorway. But I'm stuck in the doorway because I'm looking in the room and I'm seeing that, I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't be too far. Actually, my pastor said this the other day. If it was like, I think, a poem by a pretty well-known person in Christianity. It was like, you should just stand by the door. You should never be fully in it.
Yeah.
Because when you're fully in it, you never see the people on the outside of the door.
It's
ever.
true.
You should never be fully zealotry over the top. You should always be standing at the door, never fully in it. Always.
When you're doing that, you stop judging other people. You really do. You stop, saying, "Oh, well, I'm right and you're wrong."
Yeah.
"Oh, but I love you anyway."
Yeah.
Because Jesus told me to. If Jesus didn't tell me to, I might not, though. Here's the true and tried way to gauge your own faith. Would I live this way if I found out there was no God?
Right. Yeah.
Would I still believe the same? Would I still, coming from a Mormon background?
Right.
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 Would I still do all the same things if there were no God?
Right.
And if the answer is no, you need to do some soul searching.
You gotta do some soul searching. Yeah.
If the answer was, if there's no Jesus, I don't have to love my neighbor anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Right. Right.
Or if there's no heaven, I don't need to get a reward. So now I can just do whatever the heck I want.
Yeah.
But what do you really want to do? That goes back to the question. And it says you always do what you want to do.
You always do what you want to do. Yeah. You've been imbued with this beautiful spirit and mind and consciousness. And I really just believe you're making, obviously there's factors that hinder people in life for sure. There's a lot of things that hinder. I would never disparage people. There's a lot of roadblocks in life. Everyone knows that here and there. But in the end, I mean, you do make a lot of decisions. You make decisions about what you want to do every single day. And it's just funny. You said something that like I've been trying to encapsulate maybe my entire life. I have lived on the outside of that door from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I have had a lot of guilt about not being in there. Like, going to small groups and being super servant at a church. Like, it just never felt like my thing, man. And I was like, why has this never felt like for me?
Yeah.
And I've never turned the corner on it, Simon, ever. And I've tried, it just doesn't feel right to me. And I just feel like an outsider all the time, but I still have a very strong faith. I never want to be fully in there. I don't think I've ever said that, actually. It feels like too much to me. Like, I'm just like overly in, I don't see anything else. Like, nothing else can exist. Buddhism doesn't exist. Taoism doesn't exist. Mormonism, whatever. Like, I can't shut that off,
Yeah.
Like, you can't.
No, you
can't. I don't think God wants me to.
Well, here's my attitude about that. And I was talking to somebody just recently about this as well. We're just talking about we're talking about the concept that of basically like a chosen people. Because whether you're talking about the Old Testament Israelites, you're talking about modern Christianity.
Yeah.
There's a chosen people. These are the people who are chosen by God to be his people. That's a terrible dad.
Yeah.
A God that ignores Egypt and the Philistines and the Assyrians and and doesn't do anything with them, doesn't call a prophet for them.
Yeah.
Doesn't talk to them face to face the way Moses talked to God.
Right.
That's a terrible dad.
Yeah.
That's an absentee father. So you have to go back and read the Old Testament, in this lens, that God fails a lot when he flooded the earth because his children were too wicked.
Yeah.
That's a bad dad.
Right.
That's a father who failed. He failed so bad, he had to kill his children.
Right.
Have you failed that bad as a father?
Right.
I sure haven't.
Yeah. Right.
He failed so bad as a father, he had to rain down fire and brimstone on
Yeah.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
That's a bad dad.
Yeah.
Are you willing to believe that that's your father?
Yeah.
Because that's what the Old Testament's telling you to believe, that your
Yeah.
father is a terrible father and he has
Right.
a bad plan. And he doesn't talk to most of his children. He ignores them.
Yeah. Which is the beauty of this conversation, is critically thinking about that, saying it out loud, but still believing. That's the beauty of the conversation, because that could cripple you. Cripple you. That stuff never does that to me. And actually, in many ways, it just reinforces it for me. It just really does. Anytime I step out on a ledge and different things that I do, I'm like, this just keeps bringing me back to it.
Yeah.
Like, it literally does. Like,
you know, I mean, to your point, I'm so morbidly curious about this religion, you know, and I'm just struggling. Like I told you, I'm struggling to be a spiritual person in the face of all of this.
Yeah.
That is so obvious to me. It's like, it is a slap in the face every time I look at it.
Yeah.
But just like you, I keep going back.
It pulls you in, man.
I keep going back because I just want there to be something there. I want every experience that I've had in my life to be so full of meaning.
Yeah.
The flip side of that coin is that even if there was no God, I'd still want the same life.
Yeah.
And my life would be really full of meaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wouldn't lose its meaning just because when I die, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
It wouldn't lose any of its meaning. And if it does for you, just talking to anybody, then re-examine your spirituality.
Yeah.
Seriously, re-examine it. If that is the only thing that gives your life meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about the author Anne Rice, Interview with the Vampires. She was a huge atheist for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I really need to explore why I am this way, and really dive deep into scientific literature, discussions with a lot of different people. And she became a follower. And it was hard for her. She had a difficult time with it. But she went down, like Lee Strobel. A lot of people don't know Lee Strobel was a huge atheist, huge. And he went through this massive journalistic exploration to trying to disprove this. He literally was trying to disprove it.
Yeah.
And it broke him. He's like, there's no other explanation. Right? I'm not saying that you could have the opposite with the other aspect, have belief and then not have it. You know?
Sure, yeah.
But I think the point is to at least you have to give yourself, you got to go up and swing that bat a lot. You know, you're going to strike out sometimes. You got to get up to the plate though. And you have to question, you know, you just have to, as your own individual person, you know.
And that's why, you know, when we believe in a benevolent God, when we believe in a God who so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. If you really believe in that God, then you'll be okay. No matter where your life's journey takes you.
You'll be okay.
If your life's journey takes you to not believe in that, but you earnestly were seeking, you were a seeker, you were trying to find truth, and you were just wrong. There's nothing wrong with being wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, nobody likes that. People don't like that.
That's why I'm okay with it. It's like, I got a lot of ideas. A lot of them are probably really wrong. That's why I'm not absolute about them. That's why I'm not saying I'm right, you're wrong.
You're right.
I'm just saying, this is how I see it. This is the stage of the journey that I'm on right now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow something could happen. I could read something, somebody could say something to me.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna change. I'm gonna
Yeah.
change with the new information that I receive
Yeah.
each and every moment.
Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about it. And I know for me personally, every time I've done that exploration, like you, I always get pulled back. And I have thought in my mind that this is something that feels very innate to me. Like, not because my parents told me or because I went to church a lot as a kid and stuff. As an adult, over all these, my 44 years of existence, this actually feels pretty innate to me. But there's still things that I just think are not true. It's like, and I think that's where I want to live, is like, hey, you know what? I really don't think that's what that means. Honestly, that's totally not true. I'm like,
let's argue about it.
Yeah, let's talk about
argue
it. Let's
and
argue
fight about it.
Yeah.
And we still love each other and we're still neighbors.
Right. I mean, you know how many like I know so many people who are lesbian, gay, and they are huge followers of Christ. Huge.
Yeah.
And I would have so much respect for those folks, because I'm like, you're overcoming something here pretty large. Like the people at the place you go to don't want you there, probably.
Yeah.
Like they don't want you there, and you're repping hard for it. It's like, there's something beautiful about that.
There is something beautiful about it. And there's something about that was just like, so for the record, before I say this, I do not view homosexuality as a sin. So
no,
just for the record, before I say that.
Yeah.
However, I'm still going to use this analogy of, the woman who comes in tears, washes Jesus' feet, and he says, your sins are forgiven you, go that way, But that's the idea for all of us. So if you really think that, whatever, this is a sin, that's a sin, or whatever, and that person's coming to church, that's the person that Jesus is forgiving. Not you self-righteous bastard.
Yeah, exactly.
Who thinks you already got it figured out.
Exactly. He's pumped about it. I mean, he's like so pumped. He's like, this is awesome, man. Like, why can't we be like that? It's like, that's what I want us to be more like. It's like, listen, there's just, why would somebody, you think about the history, like me being a Black person, imagine, I mean, I always think,
I do believe is a sin, by the way.
It's a sin. But like, think about how hard I think about this. Think about slaves, how hard it had to have been to believe in God as a slave.
Which is why Moses is such a big figure in the Black community.
Right. But to have slaves had a tremendous faith. And I always said, like,
and
please
to see
don't.
These white slave owners have your same faith.
Yeah, exactly.
We all believe in the same God, but you own me?
Right.
What?
You're holding me. But what a tremendous beauty and faith when you are in captivity. But you know what? It was a comfort, something to lean on during that time. And that's one of the beautiful things about faith, is that comfort and the leaning on that. And I think I always have so much respect for people who have faith in times when it would have been easy for them to be like, nope, I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's no way logically I should be into this.
Here.
Yeah, we're done here. There's something beautiful about that, man.
There is something
inspires me.
Yes. There is something beautiful about somebody who, I mean, that's just kind of like the sports story of overcoming the odds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're the underdog. Yeah. I think faith is the underdog.
It's the underdog.
It is the underdog. And it should be, because it is believing in something unseen.
Yeah.
And if that's not the underdog, but it's crazy that in our society, science is the underdog. That's what's crazy.
That's the underdog, right? It's crazy to me.
I mean, it should be the exact opposite, where most of us are listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson, and then there's these like outliers who have faith. That's how it should look,
right?
Neil deGrasse Tyson, the new prophet,
right? Yeah.
My personal astrophysicist. Everybody listens to his podcast, but but yeah, that's what it's so intriguing about faith, is that not Christianity per se, but just religion around the world is the majority.
It's the huge majority.
Yes.
Like huge.
People are worrying about church attendance going down, but atheism is not on the rise in the
No,
United
it's
States.
still a fraction, very fraction. It's not like it's just overwhelming force.
No,
It's like,
it's that people are just fed up with the things that we've been talking about.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
People,
and people
are recognizing the hypocrisy, and they don't want to be a part of it.
That's they're seeing through all the garbage. They're like, wait. This seems like a lot of bullshit, actually.
Yeah.
This may be true, but like, why are you making this weird? That's what I feel like what's happening is people
sound like every woman I've ever been with.
Simon,
why are you making this weird?
It's just a good thing, Simon. Stop making it weird. Like, that's basically the relationship I feel we're in. It's like, I think a lot of people are willing to be like, this is a wonderful, comforting thing. Why are you making it weird?
I love you, Christianity. Stop making it weird.
Stop making it weird. Seriously. Why are you guys making this weird? Let's distill this down. It's not that hard. Stop making it weird.
Because it's ugly when you see it.
It's ugly. Yeah.
It's ugly, and I get so turned off by it. It's like watching politics, and most religion has become politicized.
It has become,
and it always has been politicized. It's not a new thing. I mean, religion was the politics of the Old Testament.
Correct.
And so, and people, there's a big faction of Christians who want it to be the politics of America.
Yeah.
And we're just like, that's not who we are.
That's not.
We the people, not we the Christians.
Nope. Exactly.
We the people.
Yeah.
And that includes, I think, 15% of our population that is, in fact, atheist.
Yeah. Right. Everyone
they
should
get
be
an equal say at the table.
Exactly. It's just people making things strange. Like if anything that's extreme, it becomes like the main voice, it ruins things. It's like, you ever seen speaking of movies, if a movie's just too over the top stupid, it's like, really? I mean, this is just dumb.
Yeah.
Like watching The Gray Man. What a horrible movie. So over the top CGI. It was just like, okay, this could be a good movie. This makes sense. Why are you making it weird? This is literally what's happening with the movie.
Or when there's an orgy in the
right. It's like, why did you make this weird? Like, it's like, this is like my philosophy, Simon. I'm telling you, it's like, this is good. Stop making it weird. Okay. It's like, it doesn't need to be this complicated.
I think that should be like a whole other segment of your podcast.
I know.
The episodes under the subtitle, Stop Making It Weird.
Stop making it weird. Right? It's like everybody's making stuff weird that literally has no reason for being weird. It's like, okay, it's pretty cut and dry here, buddy. I put something in the ground, plant the seed, comes up, gives me food. What else do we need to do to make this weird? It's like, it's not good enough for it to be this simple. Like,
and that's what Jesus said. By their fruits you shall know them.
Exactly.
And it's just like, why are we not still? I mean, we're at a nice point in our history in the United States where even conservatives quote MLK.
Yeah.
And they want to say things like, but they weaponize it against things like the Black Lives Matter movement. Why aren't you judging us by our character instead of by the color of our skin?
Yeah.
Because you keep doing things like voter suppression.
Exactly. You're making things weird
against minorities. Because you're making it weird. You're making it really uncomfortable.
Right.
For people to minorities to want to vote for you, because you keep doing things that is specifically against their interests.
Yeah.
And I just find that so curious, and disheartening. And that so much of this stuff gets co-opted and weaponized. And that's the thing. I mean, slavery was excused by Christianity because they weaponized passages in the Old Testament and the way that Jesus never outright said slavery's bad,
Yeah.
I mean, uh, so we'll just take that and say slavery's good.
Yes.
2 thumbs up for
Yeah.
slavery.
You just have to like be willing to like evaluate the things you're into. It was like one time I was on a podcast, and these are good friends of mine, but again, I never mind blowing things up. I really don't mind it. And they're like hardcore Democrats. And they were like, well, I was like, well, this is not a we. I'm not a Democrat. I'm like, they were saying, I was like,
exactly.
I was like, don't put me into this. I said, but okay, so you would only vote for Democrats. This is what I like for people to tell me. I like to like operationally define what they're telling me. You would only do this. Yes. What if that person was Donald Trump? What if the Democratic nominee was Donald? Would you vote for him? You just told me you would vote for whoever is the Democrat. Like, and they really like, you could see the breaking down. Well, I'm not. Well, I'm like, no, you told me though.
Because he originally tried to run as a Democrat.
Right. He used to be. I mean, like, but
nobody
what would you do? Yeah.
No.
And they had such a hard time with it. I was like, but see, these are the things you should be questioning in your mind.
Yeah.
Like, what if an equally horrible person was on your side? Would you continue to keep doing this way of thinking, this very mono, one track thinking? Like, people don't do that though, Simon. They don't do it.
No. Yeah. I mean, and that's why there's people like you and I who are not Republican or Democrat. We're constantly just trying to throw a wrench into the machine and say
all the time, man.
What? What if? I mean, you're doing exactly. I mean, that's so great. This is why you and I just understand each other.
We understand it. Yeah.
Because we're both the guy who's standing in the doorway.
I'm in the doorway,
taking it all in, and then whispering, "What if?
What if?" And I got into this big thing the other day with some, and I was like, see, like with me, I was like, I'm not going to vote for someone just because to cancel out someone else. I'm like, it's got to like make sense to me. Yeah. So it's going to be someone even if I know the person has no chance of winning, I'm going to feel good about it aligning with the values that I think are really important. Well, like, not because it's aligning with this. If this person gets it, then this bad person will be there. This person, that's what most people do.
Yeah.
Literally. They're like, well, I don't like this person, but I don't want this other person. I'm like, how about you just think for yourself?
Lesser of two evils.
Think for yourself.
Yeah.
Put it on the line. Put in someone that you think is just amazing and they would be a great person, even though they're not going to win. 100% sure it's not going to happen. That's how I roll, man. I'm not giving in to none of this stuff, man, at all. I'm like,
well, I mean, back to that, MLK quote, by their character, not the color of their skin. The color of their skin is sometimes whether or not they're a Republican, Democrat, or anything like that. Yeah. And so to your point, it's like, so you're just, I mean, when Donald Trump became president, I was like, I said this out loud. I said, this is not going to end well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they voted somebody in not on the content of their character.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me that they were Republican, by the way.
No.
There have been plenty of Republicans or men of great character, just like there's been plenty of Democrats, and there's been plenty on both sides that have been people of no character.
Right, of course. Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with Donald Trump being a Republican that I said this isn't going to end well. It had everything to do with the content of that person's character.
Right.
And I hate to say I told you so.
Yeah, but I told you so. And I hate to tell you it's going to happen again if you don't, if it happens. But I'm not going to I'm going to vote this way so that he doesn't get in. That's just not how I roll, man. If I got to be consistent in my life. If I can't be like this one way just because of this potential outcome. I want to be consistent. I'm standing at the door looking around 360. I don't like any of this. I'm like,
that's why we're not affiliated with a political
That's
party.
what I'm saying.
I don't like any of this.
I don't like any of this. It's like, oh, I don't like hot dogs or I don't like ice cream, but I'm going to have ice cream because the hot dog people are, it's like, I'm just not going to have either. I don't know. It's like, I'll have some chips. wrong with the chips? Like,
Exactly, man. Exactly. And you know, that is so most religion and politics and things like that are trying to live in a binary existence.
right.
Either or.
Either or.
And you and I are not in there.
Not in that, man.
We're not ones and zeros. And nobody is, but they want to
know.
simplify it and try to tell themselves that they are.
Yeah.
But
Like,
you're not.
you're
You're
not
a
that.
complex
Yeah.
human being. Every single person, even Donald Trump.
It's true.
He's a complex guy.
True.
He's, you know, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's all bad. I'm sure he's capable of great goodness. I'm sure he's capable of just anything any other human is capable of.
Right.
Because he's a complex human being.
Yeah. It's true.
A lousy president.
And there are a lot of lousy presidents.
Yeah,
lousy. And there's so many. It's just the power grab to me again. It's like, if you told somebody, if a person like that, you say, hey, well, if you went to this side, you would 100% win. They probably would do it. It's like, if the outcome pleases you and you're in this one track, if you're in this thing, you probably just do whatever the outcome is for you. Am I going to win? Okay, I'll do that. Thing is, for me, is I'm okay not winning. It's okay if I don't win. Winning is not the goal for me. That's not the goal. I know this is a society. It's all about winning and leveling up and scaling and all this stuff. I mean, seriously, LinkedIn, if I get another person who wants to scale my business, like, not everybody wants to scale their business. Sometimes people want to just play the guitar and watch Netflix in the afternoon instead of being productive. That exists still. It's like winning is never been it's not the goal for me. You know, the goal for me is to have a fulfilling existence with great conversation, be a good example of humanity to other people, and regardless of what happens, be someone who is a light to other people. Not a perfect person, a light to other people. Not perfect.
You're a luminary. You're a luminary.
Just it, man. I just want to talk to people. I want to understand them. You know, that's it. And do I judge people? Hell yeah, I judge people. Of course, I'm a human being. I've judged many people in my life. It is what it is, man. But I try hard to not. All right. We just judge Donald Trump all the time. It's like, you know, I'm imperfect. I make mistakes. Sometimes I see something, I go, oh, that's not good. like, why are you wearing that? Why are you wearing that? I think that is like, but I work hard to try to be a light most of the time in my life. That's it, man.
That's what being a Christian is.
Yeah, I'm working.
It's not putting your candle under the bushel. It's shining on the hill.
Yeah,
it's and that's what you're doing. You're out there, you know, and you're giving everybody you talk to a fair and equal shake.
Right.
Present your side of the story.
Present your side. That's right. Tell me who you are.
Yes.
I want to hear about it. You know, I'm not going to shut you down. Listen, as we both know, I've heard a lot of weird things on this podcast.
You've heard some weird stuff. And
I've heard some weird stuff.
Yeah.
But these are also some of the people I love the most because I actually get to know them and spend time with them.
Who doesn't love a weirdo?
Yeah. Come on. I'm weird. I mean, come on. It's like,
weirdos are always the most lovable characters in a movie or a book.
Right? Who doesn't love Revenge of the Nerds, man? I mean, we might have to talk about that movie, man.
Have to talk about that.
That's like an amazing. We should do that next. That's like an amazing movie. It's like,
that's quintessential 80s. It's like if you can wrap up everything about those feel-good comedies of the 80s, it's right there in Revenge of the Nerds.
It's like peak 80s. You know, it's like they're just sitting there watching in the house that they bugged with all the cameras. Yes. I'm like, there's a little dirtiness in there, man. I like it. Everybody got a little dirty dog in them.
Yeah. You know, we're not saying the nerds are necessarily good people.
I mean, we didn't say that, but it's definitely peak 80s, man. I mean, who does like a music video, basically, a performance? And then it's
it really is.
How great is that? I mean, it's like,
you got Booger Presley on the guitar. It was one of my favorite scenes when I was young.
You know, it's so funny, right? It's like,
yeah.
No one, there's nobody coming to this party except for Lamar, but he's coming with a guy. He's like, oh, I was dying. Land of moose.
Oh man, I just shared our episode about Demolition Man with Ronnie here.
Yeah,
because he and I were talking about it, and it's so funny. We're all the same age.
Yeah.
And we all have this connection to Demolition Man.
I'm telling you, man.
But in a different way. Like he and I were conversing about it. He's breaking it down in a totally different way than you and I had talked about it. And you and I had talked about it the way, and criticizing wokeness and all those kinds of things that we were talking about. Well, he came at it. He's like, a white man traveled through time to take down a black man. He's like, there's nothing a white man won't do to take down a black man.
He'll go in cryo, even, for years.
He'll destroy a whole building.
Oh, that's a different take.
He'll destroy everything around him to take down a black man.
That's a different take, man.
It's a good take.
It's a definitely different, funny
movie
good
from
take,
that
man.
perspective, where it's like he is just surrounded by white people.
He is, man.
He's really, there's the old helicopter pilot, but those are the only two black people with lines.
Yeah.
One of them is basically a Tuskegee Airman.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then the other one is the black man everybody fears.
Right. And yet no one still knew how to use the bathroom. I still didn't understand that part, but whatever. Like,
oh man.
Yeah. You're the man. This is always, to me, this is spiritual. Like these conversations.
Absolutely.
This is maybe
church.
This is church. Yeah. You know what? You took it. I was like conflicted about saying that, but I like that we're honest with each other about these things.
Jesus said, when two or more witnesses are gathered in my name,
that's right. That's exactly right. That feels like speaking is meditation to me. Like it always has been. Like, and then when everybody knows I do this at the end of the show now. Okay. I always say something nice to Simon.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
he says a lot of bad things to me on text, but it's okay.
I do.
He does. But I think it's very rare in life to meet someone and to have instant chemistry with them.
Yeah.
And I am very grateful that your wife introduced us together.
I know, right?
It's right.
Kind of a Brokeback Mountain situation.
First. It is a little, it's romance there. But it was instant. It was like lightning. It was very instant. And my wife was like, my wife was like, you're on. She listened to the podcast too. She's like, you're on with all these people and stuff. And then she's like, you're kind of different with different people. I said, I'm probably the most different with Simon because it's the most comfortable. I'm like, I am with someone. It feels like I never ask questions. I just talk to you.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I ask questions.
Yeah.
I just talk to you.
Yeah.
There's beauty in that.
That's old friends getting together. And
Simon and I have never met each other in person.
We've never been in the same room.
We've never been in the same room.
Yeah. But for all I know, you're like wearing a mask, and I don't even know what you really look like. You're a lizard person under there.
Yeah. Well, okay. This is a QAnon here. We could talk about that. I've done the research.
But it's true. And I think that is something about the human experience. Once again, we keep going back to this, but the human experience is that you find connection with other people.
You do.
And those people can be a couple thousand miles away.
Right. It's not unlike a pen pal situation for someone really far away, and they have this huge 20, 30-year relationship and they don't even see. It's just, I'm just grateful for it. I'm like, because I know so many people in my life, and here's the big crescendo of this statement.
All right.
I know so many people because of this podcast. I've networked with thousands of people. There may not be a better person I'd want to talk to than you.
Oh man. That's beautifully said.
I'm serious.
I wish I could say the same thing about you.
No, it's okay. I don't expect reciprocal thing. I just expect to say what my feelings are on it. That's all.
That's why, I was so excited to do this twice a month.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why, just like, I look forward to this time with you so much. It is literally like getting together with a best friend. It's,
Yeah.
and somebody you don't get to see,
Yes.
and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, yes, I get to go talk to Darian.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly it. And I know we're going to talk about real stuff.
Real stuff.
I know we're not going to be, talking about fluff and whatever, we're going to get
No.
on there and we're going to have a real conversation. And that is the thing that I crave most in my life, is to have real connection, one-on-one with people. And this connection that you and I have shared has just fulfilled that for me, and it
Thank
fulfills
you,
it
man.
every time we get on here.
I feel the same way. It's magic.
Yeah.
It just feels just magic. It's just energy. I see it on my calendar. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. Like,
Yeah.
and in life, you don't always get that. You're kind of, well, I'm going to do this. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I am fortunate. I have a lot of good things that I experience in my life, but this is up there, man. This is like very rare air. Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm speaking to people constantly. I mean, I'm putting out so much stuff.
You've got so much content.
Like it's
lot.
Hard
for me to keep up with.
I know.
Trying.
Everybody tells me, it's like, there's always something coming out. It's like, yeah. I said, but there's only a few that I am willing to do this for.
Yeah.
And so you fulfill that. So anyway, thank you so much for being my friend. And I just appreciate you tremendously. I love you, man. You're a good dude, man.
I love you too. Yeah. You as well.
Yeah. See, this is what I do at the end every time. I give Simon, he gives me a lot of shit on text. Maybe one day I'll share the text. It's somewhat sexual.
Expose me.
I want to expose you for the real guy he is.
We'll find out. Yeah, I'll get canceled everywhere.
It's
like,
really?
He said that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never get a job again. Everybody.
We're both artists, basically. Yeah. It's fine. Simon, you're the man. Signing off, man.
You too.
All right, man. Soon. You got it.